welcome.
Hi,
Hi.
thank you, Johan. It's nice to be with you.
So who are you and what do you do?
My name is Melanie Swan. I'm a blockchain futurist. I'm in the philosophy and economic theory area at the New School University in New York, and I work on what is the meaning and philosophy of decentralized finance and decentralized economics. What is blockchain meaning more fundamentally as a technology?
Well, it sounds like a great opening question. What is the meaning of the...
Yeah, it's very fundamental how we might be rethinking concepts like risk or even security, financial securities. So for example, if we think about something like music, most of us subscribe to a music service now like Spotify. So we don't purchase records and own them in our own homes anymore. We purchase music as a service. And we're moving that way maybe with automobiles. So Uber is a driving service that maybe that's much easier to patronize than actually owning our own car. And so what if we move that way to the securities industry as well? Right now we own stocks and securities because we are unsure about the future value of our investments. But what would have to happen in society for us to feel comfortable moving to just having access to the benefits of securities, but not actually having to own them? And that's a fundamental big step forward into abundance and needs being met for everybody.
Right. That sounds still a little bit abstract to me.
It's very abstract, yes.
Do you have an example or something? Could you make it a little bit more specific?
Sure. So I think or we can think of it that's a much more distant kind of a future of what risk might mean in a decentralized financial network. But even in the short term, what is actually happening now, and Netherlands is a leader in having announced blockchain technology collaborations in the financial services industry. And so investment banks, commercial banks are moving to having one single database of all of the securities. And so they essentially can clear when there's a stock or bond is bought, it can be validated and settled immediately as opposed to over 1, 3, or 5 days. And so the buying and selling of stock can be immediate. And this is an application that New York, Amsterdam, London are all moving towards very quickly.
Right. It is one of the examples that actually already happening right now, and it's also one of the things that some people that are truly believers in blockchain technology say that it's a bad development because now the incumbents are using the new technology and that does not really help to create a new system. Mm-hmm. So what do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting situation. Does any new technology, how does it configure the power relationships in the industry? And so I know that, for example, regulators are worried that blockchain implementations by big banks might be a collusive kind of an effort that just consolidates industry power, and the regulators don't know what is happening. So that is very much a concern. I think an even bigger concern is that perhaps the financial industry becomes more concentrated. And so in the case of an economic shock like a 2008 crisis, maybe if systems are so tightly coupled and connected, they can fail more quickly and more devastatingly. And so I think there are a number of different kinds of risks that accompany the modernizing that we're trying to do with blockchain technology.
On the other hand, blockchain technology can also create more transparency and things like that. One could say that if all transactions are publicly accessible, that would be great.
Yes.
I once heard, I don't know, maybe you said it or somebody else, but basically that blockchain technology is like programmable trust. Mm-hmm. I think it is it's a great way to describe a technology. Mm-hmm. So how do these two worlds converge in your work for Singularity? How do you deal with that?
Well, I think the two things to mention are that there are two different kinds of blockchains. One is private and one is public. So the private ones, the banks see all of the transactions, but only amongst themselves. And so this is sort of like the walled garden days of the internet when AOL, you could go online and have the AOL experience or the CompuServe experience, but it wasn't truly an open situation. And so this is exactly of concern to customers and regulators, that the banks can see all the transactions themselves, but that it's not really transparent and open to the public. And so public chains are. So when I execute a Bitcoin transaction right now, I buy a coffee or something, anybody can look up that wallet address and that amount spent to that vendor on the public blockchain. And so that's the transparency that presumably we would eventually move to in the industry. For me, Singularity University is always focused on these Singularity class projects, which can impact 1 million people or more within 10 years. And the big sell is expanding beyond the domain of your own discipline to integrate technologies coming from other industries into having an impact in your own industry. And so it's really this view of integrating different kinds of technologies that Singularity tries to focus on, and that I think is so valuable, because I see with blockchain technology, it's not as much a separate new industry as much as a new kind of technology underlying and helping every industry. So there are blockchain applications in every kind of Singularity area, in computing and artificial intelligence, in nanotechnology, in energy, in clean water. So blockchain is just a new kind of internet technology that helps any kind of field. That's right,
it's an enabler. So,
mm-hmm.
But before we go further, and a few examples of these, the ways
Sure.
that it's used in different kind of industries might help.
Sure. So one obvious way that blockchain technology might be used is in healthcare, where we could have an electronic medical record that's blockchain based. And so you have a digital health wallet application on your smartphone, and you can permission any doctor or service provider into your medical record. All of the information is there centralized in one place, and you, the user, control it, and it's universally accessible. So an electronic medical record is one obvious kind of application. Another one is, for example, if we thought about the energy industry, that we can start to move, a nation's power grid is essentially like an internet of energy. And so having packets or energy units that are consumable in off hours and different kinds of times when pricing makes more sense, is something that can be logged to the blockchain, and then smart contracts can securely automate the coordination of very many items like packets of energy.
All right. Now you mentioned smart contracts. That's a term that we've heard quite often lately when we talk about blockchain technology. And to me, it seems like it is one of the applications that the people are hoping will finally show something that, a case that is easy to understand for ordinary people to use. Because far it used to be pretty abstract for a lot of people, but smart contract would be something usable product, a real product.
Yeah.
So where are we with smart contracts?
So smart contracts, one of the biggest developers platforms for this is called Ethereum, and there are a number of development efforts worldwide with using Ethereum software as a platform for developing smart contracts. So an example of a smart contract might be something like a mortgage servicing. So a mortgage has a payment due every month. Typically, there might be an interest rate reset, and that's smart contract is just another term for automated computer software code. And so it could easily, programmatically, that mortgage could be managed. And if there's so the a key component of a smart contract might be something called an oracle. And so this is looking up to some external authority on the internet what, for example, the interest rate is this month. And so it's a programmatic call to some sort of outside source of information on the internet and incorporating that in the execution of the code or of the smart contract. And so an automated mortgage servicing would be an example of a smart contract that is in probably the early days of being tested. And
because there's no real services yet where I can, as a consumer, buy a blockchain-based product, or more or less.
Perhaps not, but lots of banks are moving very quickly towards customer-facing blockchain applications, and the stance of the development houses, so you can check how much that the volume of activity on the Ethereum blockchain, for example, continues to increase, and developers would say, yes, it's an open technology. If you want to build yourself a mortgage on Ethereum, go ahead. It's open to do already now. And larger financial services companies that would actually provide volumes of consumer-facing services are in general prototyping and exploring use of the technology right now.
Right. So now you have a different background than blockchain technology. So how did you end up in this world and finding this an interesting thing to study or to work with?
Yeah, well, I'm a technology futurist, so I'm always doing new kinds of technology startups and focused on whatever the new technology of the moment is. And so blockchain really caught my attention when I knew about it, and it was a digital payment system, digital money, it's a decentralized PayPal, and that was sort of interesting. And then I realized it's really for we'll probably start logging all of our assets to the blockchain as smart property. All of our cars and autos and securities, any kind of ownership of property might be logged to a blockchain, and that could be more easily transferred. So when I want to sell a car or a house, that's a laborious process now of confirming the ownership, the provenance of the ownership. And so that could be streamlined and made much more efficient with a confirmation mechanism like a blockchain. And then I realized it's not just about property and all of economics and modernizing economics, it's actually about these smart contracts too, so that all contractual arrangements between parties could be automatically executed and also validated and logged to blockchains. And so that means all of a sudden not just economics, but all of governance and legal, the governance and legal domains. And so and these are the two final sectors that haven't really been fundamentally re-engineered for the internet era, because there hasn't been an algorithmic trust, some sort of trust built into a software that can confirm things around money or trust and contractual legal obligations. And so finally, blockchain is a modernizing technology that can help us revamp these last remaining industries. Publishing, music, books, content, information, all of those industries were already transformed by the internet, but economics and politics have not been yet.
So that was your epiphany moment. You finally thought, this is it. I'm going to jump into this, and this is going to be an exciting ride.
That it's really, when I saw that it's not just money, it's not just contracts, it's actually a modernizing information technology, then I started to get really excited about it.
Right. So what was your previous thing that you got really excited about?
My current thing is a social robotics startup that I'm working on, and prior to blockchain was my genomics startup. So the ability where biology is a math problem and we can use our own genomic information to address preventive medicine. So medical conditions during 80% of their life cycle are not diagnosable until they're already in the final stages. That's when a physician can pick them up in the clinic. But we want to stay healthy longer, and so we want to start working on conditions earlier in their life cycles. And so knowing our genomic code and our protein biomarkers and various real-time quantified self-type information helps us take more authority and responsibility for maintaining our own health earlier. So that was my previous startup, was DIY Genomics.
Right, so anything is possible with you. At Singularity, one of the things that is really important is these global ground challenges.
Yes.
And so where does blockchain fit into that for you?
Yeah, so for me, blockchain is really a singularity class technology. It's on the order of something like electricity. It has no other technology has the ability to pull 2 billion people worldwide out of poverty overnight with an intermediary-free remittance market. So just connecting the long tail of economics. It's the printing press. The printing press freed information. The printing press and the internet freed any person to write and transmit information, just like blockchain is now freeing any person to credit, finance, financial services, banking. And so the ability of blockchain to make immediate significant progress on poverty is establishes it as a singularity class technology to me that fully addresses the grand challenge impacts that singularity likes to focus on.
Is it mainly poverty that it is addressing in your point of view?
Blockchain, yes, it can be about many things, and first and foremost, it's about life or death situations, getting money to those who need it.
Right. Now, Singularity University is about technology, it's also about converging technologies, and there's also, if you have exponential growing technologies and they converge, you get outcomes nobody really can predict. But one could say if we go from a situation from scarcity to abundance,
yes.
And in an abundant world,
yes.
would there be poverty? Would there be actually
sure.
the need for financial transactions, or would they just vanish?
Yeah, financial inclusion could be something that we resolve pretty quickly on the order of 1 or 2 decades. So certainly. So I imagine a philosophy of abundance economics, where the first step is moving to the automation economy and meeting all material goods needs of all persons worldwide. So that's a first move into material abundance. And this may be implemented with guaranteed basic income initiatives for all persons executed via blockchains, for example. And then the second move for me is great. So all of our material needs are met. What's next? And so the productive employ of human energies will be in this other next phase, the actualization economy, where successful economies focus on the production of social goods that we care about, which are things like trust and autonomy and recognition, collaboration and creative expression. So that's the real trick. It's fairly clear what might need to be done to get to the automation economy and meet material goods scarcity, and then it's wide open for what kind of productive futures do we want to envision from there.
Yeah. You are very much into this field, and for you it's everyday business. But there's a lot of people out there on the streets and in ordinary businesses that they hear this and say, okay, you're making a few steps like it's in 1 minute, and they cannot even grasp the idea of the first step. How do you deal with those people, also from a singularity perspective? How do you include these people in the ideas and the progression that is made?
Sure, I think that's very important because of the accelerating pace of technology can make more people feel left out, and especially older people just can't deal. A social robot might be quite nice as an elderly caretaking companion, but it's so foreign to people that it might be difficult to adapt to. So I think with any new technology, and including multiple converging, fast-moving technologies, anything needs to be slowed way down and to understand a particular use case for a particular person. And so many technologies never become widely adopted. They never cross the chasm because there wasn't a value proposition that made sense to a specific group of users. And so I think it's very important to just find out what's important to people and to try to target the minimum viable application to different groups. And the technology, it's not that startups don't fail because they didn't deliver the tech. They fail because they didn't deliver into a need.
Right. So that's an interesting point, because we've talked to quite some people today, and talked in previous occasions with a lot of other people related to the subject, and a lot of people tend to believe that technology is a force of nature. It's just happening and it's out of control. Nobody can. I mean, if you want to stop it, then it will just find a way, and it will kick you in the ass anyway. And what I hear from you is more or less that, maybe I'm wrong, but that there's that the maximum pace that technology can develop itself is the pace at which the public adopts the new technology. So if the public says no, the technology will not happen. That's a different sound, I think, and it's a different kind of view on the matter you have than some others. Is that true?
Yes, I think there are a number of different prevailing attitudes in regard to technology, and certainly there's an inevitabilism that I have to get a cell phone or be on Facebook because everybody is, and this inevitable pace of technology inexorably taking over the world, and that that is certainly one view. But we look at many technologies that failed, and until and unless there is a deep human use for them, it wouldn't be implemented. However, at the same time, I think one of the biggest challenges of our era is human-machine collaboration. So the real way forward is a society that includes many kinds of intelligence, and including humans at our slow, evolutionarily plodding pace, together with technology entities. And how do we have respectful collaborations that support both kinds of entities? And I think that's a really real problem.
Right, so technology will continue to develop, and it will have its own role in society, and there's no need for all ordinary people to adopt and use all these technologies. There's different paces that are possible.
Sure, many of the geopolitical conflicts at the moment could be seen in the lens of a rapid technology adoption.
Yeah. Or a difference in development. Right. So. One more time back to these grand challenges. That there's also slightly two different views on these grand challenges. On the one hand, there's people that actually seem to believe that the basic thing is to help 1 billion people or more. On the other hand, you have Peter Diamandis quoting, say, if you want to be a billionaire, help 1 billion people. Or impact the lives of 1 billion people, and maybe I'm not entirely quoting him correctly, but that is the point of his quote. So it is a different thing. I mean, it's a different thing to want to become a billionaire, and it's also the same way as Singularity University is organized, basically top down, where it starts with executive level, expensive courses and everything. So how do you see that? Because you have a background in philosophy as well, I believe. So as a philosopher, how do you look at that?
Yeah, that is quite interesting. The potential conflict. So it occurs to me, I think immediately of something like altruism, where the external behavior is not discernible. There may be sort of selfish reasons as well as non-selfish reasons, and it's very difficult to tell. And if the outcome helps 1 billion people, maybe we don't care if the instigator also became a billionaire themselves while so doing, irrespective if their motivations are probably a combination of things. So what I think is most important is outcome. It is interesting, this point about, and we get this comment all the time in the blockchain industry, well, it's supposed to be decentralized, but yet the mining operation is in fact highly centralized. And so there's a potential ideological conflict, and Singularity University perhaps quite top down, not open source or Creative Commons in its business model deployment. What I would observe about Singularity University is that it's an operation that's been going for about 7 years. I've been involved with it from the beginning, and I've seen it. What I appreciate is that it's a new kind of a thing that rapidly evolves per the market conditions, just like any kind of startup would. So I think it's a very interesting kind of an example. It's a new kind of thing in our world. It's not a traditional accredited, more staunch university that can't move quickly at all. It's not a technology startup or a content delivery company in particular. So I continue to watch it sort out its own vision and evolution. And there have been different modes where so I see Singularity University as being an experimental sandbox, that they continue to sort out their own direction and mission. And so there could always be a complaint of ideological conflicts if it's not purely open source or something, but I think the bigger point is that it's a new kind of experimental vehicle on its own.
Right, and impact is in the end more important than...
Yes. Yeah.
Right. And you will still be part of the Singularity University team to make sure that the debate goes on. And
yeah, I support what I'm attracted to about, what I appreciate about Singularity is this really this focus of seeing beyond your disciplinary bound to try to work with convergence technologies. And that's extremely important. And so that's the value or the lens that appeals to me most about singularity. And it's quite crucial. Now I'm trying to work in economics and finance, and nobody has the perspective of being outside the model we've accepted forever about, we've never thought money, risk, markets. We've never thought that there might be other ways to do the same kind of resource delivery in other modes.
We have never thought about abundance versus scarcity.
Exactly.
Well,
or that abundance
quite
could be something that might even be available and achievable.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so I really appreciate, so anything that can help us, this is a philosopher in me probably, anything that can help us expand our thinking is, I think, a useful tool.
All right. Well, that's great final words.
Ah.
Thank you for watching. This was our last episode of the day. We've been broadcasting live from the Lamar Theatre in Amsterdam for Singularity University. We will be back tomorrow, so be there. And if you missed some of our interviews of the day, they're all in our YouTube channel, and they're in the YouTube channel of Singularity University, the Netherlands, who is hosting this summit. So check them all out.